It was my freshman year at Notre Dame, actually. I just went to college. My first year was I guess, 3 weeks of school. So I was actually going to a meeting that morning with my first year advisor, my first year academic advisor, and I had to wait a little bit for the meeting, and I didn't really know why. I think my interview was about 8 a.m., and I was there a little early, and I was sitting in the office just waiting, and I kept getting, kind of put on hold. The secretary was coming out saying, hey, she'll just be a few more minutes, she'll just be a few more minutes. Eventually, when I got in around 8:30, I didn't know what was going on because there wasn't any TVs around, and I, just woke up and went over to the meeting right away. So she was from New York, and when she was in there, I could definitely see that she was a little distraught. And she asked me if I saw or heard what was going on in New York. And I said, no, I don't know. I just came right over here from my dorm. And she said, oh, well, it appears there's been a bombing. And I was just calling to see and make sure that my family was okay. Do you mind if we reschedule? And I said, yeah, that's great. That's no problem. I can definitely do that. So I just, grabbed my bag, went across the grass and went over to my dorm and went into the dorm room just down the hall where a bunch of guys were. My roommate wasn't in his room, went to the suite mates next door. They weren't there. They were all down the hall in a triple, and everyone was watching TV because it was the only room that actually had a TV. None of us had one. So they were watching NBC, and then there were the reports coming that it was a plane that flew in, and while we were watching it live, there was probably about 12 of us in one room. We saw the other plane coming in and crash in the other building, and that was... it was pretty surreal to see it all kind of happen right there, not knowing what was going on at first, first hearing that it was maybe a bombing, and then when you finally see, the plane going into the building, it was tough. It was hard to describe, and you could just feel the air kind of leave the room. 12, 18-year-old men that just got to college, all of us sitting in the dorm room, not knowing what to do or nowhere to go or who to call or anything like that. And that one moment just there in that dorm room, though, I remember, most vividly. Everyone just kind of sitting there, and no one knew what to say, no one knew what to do, and it's kind of as weird as it seems, but it kind of an interesting moment, I guess, for all of us too, because we all barely knew each other. We all just met for the first time, and it was the first 3 weeks of that meeting when that happened. Being the Catholic university that it is, everyone got together and they had one huge mass, school-wide mass, just outside our dorm on the quad, and every single student was there. The entire quad was filled with about 10,000 people. All for this one mass for what was going on that day, and it wasn't anything. Obviously, it's not something that just affected that day. It's 10 years now, and we're still talking about it, and it's something that affected days after, weeks after, and now even decades. So I love my country, being Canadian. I absolutely love Canada, but when things like that happen, it didn't really matter kind of what country you're from. People were still talking to me about it. People were still talking to every other student from every other nation at Notre Dame. It was a pretty eclectic community there, people from all over the world. So, it was kind of a singular group. It wasn't really, just American, I didn't feel at that point. There was a lot of, patriotism throughout the United States. Obviously, that's going to happen. But I felt, for everybody that was here in the community in the United States, everyone was kind of embraced, I feel, during that moment.